All right, let's shift to the topic Senator Lee was just asking you about, because I have to say I found your answers to him thoroughly unacceptable. The 2022 Transgender Offender Manual, issued by the Bureau of Prison through your predecessors, reverted back to the Obama administration's initial designation and housing programming assignments.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to America Wake. I'm Wilson. You just watched a pretty intense exchange between Senator Ted Cruz and Bureau of Prisons Director Colette Peters. After watching it, one thing stood out to me. Cruz came with direct questions, and a lot of those questions never seemed to get direct answers. Whether you agree with Cruz politically or not, I think most people expect government officials to know the impact of the policies they're overseeing. When questions are asked about public safety, prison operations, and the effects of major policy changes, Americans deserve clear answers. That's what made this hearing so interesting to watch. Before we get into my reaction, make sure you like this video, subscribe to America Wake, and turn on notifications so you never miss an update. Now let's dive in.
Ms. Peters, one of President Biden's first acts after taking office was to issue Executive Order 14006, mandating that contracts with privately owned detention facilities not be renewed. The order is intended, quote, to decrease incarceration levels by reducing profit-based incentives to incarcerate by phasing out the federal government's reliance on privately operated criminal detention facilities. This order has created many unintended consequences, including the closing of the Willacy County Regional Detention Facility in Raymondville, Texas. The decision has had tremendous negative consequences with little to no obvious upside, forcing inmates to travel hundreds of miles round trip for court appearances, impacting the accessibility of legal counsel, and making family visits significantly more difficult. It has also caused administration issues for the prison system and harmed the local economy by eliminating these jobs. Literally every stakeholder that has a role to play in these cases is opposed to this Biden policy. That includes the defense bar, the federal public defender, the U.S. attorney, even the federal bench. All have publicly asked for this policy to be rescinded. Unfortunately, as with the open borders under Joe Biden, the Biden administration doesn't give a damn about how their woke policies actually affect South Texas or the lives of regular people. Ms. Peters, how has Executive Order 14006 impacted the Bureau of Prisons' ability to house inmates, and has it been a negative impact or a positive impact?
Thank you, Senator. So we were able to come into compliance with the executive order the end of last November and bring in those individuals from those facilities that were closed, and we were able to safely absorb them into our current population.
Okay, that you didn't answer my question. How has it impacted the BOP, and has it been positive or negative?
Senator, I don't know that I can put it in a positive or negative category. What I can say
is the defense bar and the U.S. attorney and the federal bench, are they all wrong?
I'm not familiar with their opinions and their reasons for opposing.
Okay, unfortunately, you're illustrating that the Biden administration doesn't care about South Texas if you don't even know the impact it's having on all the stakeholders. All right, let's shift to the topic Senator Lee was just asking you about, because I have to say I found your answers to him thoroughly unacceptable. The 2022 Transgender Offender Manual, issued by the Bureau of Prison through your predecessors, reverted back to the Obama administration's initial designation and housing programming assignments. Notably, biological sex at birth is no longer the controlling determinant. Right now today, how many biological males are housed in female prisons under BOP?
Senator, I don't have those numbers in front of me today.
Why don't you?
We could look at them and get back to you.
Why don't you?
I just don't have them top of
Did you know you were going to be asked that today?
No, Senator.
Oh, you didn't? Have you been asked that before?
On the record, Senator?
Yes.
I don't recall.
You were asked a year ago in writing, and you failed to answer it in writing. You knew damn well you're going to be asked it today, but you don't want to answer it. Senator Lee asked, why don't you report the numbers? You don't report the numbers because you don't want people to know the numbers. So the fact that you sit there and say, I don't know, he said 1,300. Is that number in the ballpark?
1,300 as it relates to which category, Senator?
Biological males housed in female prisons.
No, that would be a much larger number.
Which is a larger number?
So the number of individuals who even identify as transgender at the Federal Bureau of Prisons is around 1,700. And the number of individuals that are housed in institutions not conforming with their biological sex are very low.
Very low. Are we talking 100? Are we talking 10?
We will look at the numbers. We're talking less than 10.
So your testimony here, I just want to understand, your testimony here today is there are fewer than 10 biological males, human beings that were born male, who are housed in female prisons. Is that your testimony?
That is my understanding, and I will confirm that and get back to you.
Okay. Of the 1,700 prisoners you referenced, how many of them are convicted sex offenders?
I do not know the answer to that, Senator.
Are you aware that Great Britain's numbers, according to a January 2022 report, is the proportion of male-born transgender offenders who are sex offenders in the UK prison system is roughly 60%, significantly higher than the 18% of the general population? Are those numbers consistent with the American numbers?
I'm not familiar with Great Britain's numbers.
So let me ask you this. How many female inmates have been sexually assaulted by biological males who BOP has housed in female prisons?
Senator, I would have to look into that and get back to you.
Do you have an obligation to protect those female prisoners?
Absolutely.
And so have you examined how many women have been sexually assaulted by biological males that BOP has placed in the prison with those women?
I have not, Senator, but I will tell you that safety and security and the placement of every individual in our custody is top of mind and the most important.
So if it's top of mind, why haven't you examined how many have been sexually assaulted? This is an obvious question. If you put a man with male genitals, with a male body in a female prison who's a convicted sex offender, it's not rocket science that there's a real risk those women are going to be victims of sexual assault. How is it possible that you haven't even asked the question, how many women are getting sexually assaulted because of the policies of the Biden administration?
Senator, I assure you that safety and security of these individuals are top of mind. And if
so you haven't asked the question?
If there was misconduct, those individuals would be held accountable.
Thank you, Senator Cruz.
After watching that entire exchange, I can understand why Ted Cruz was frustrated. The first issue involved President Biden's executive order ending contracts with certain private detention facilities. Cruz argued that the policy has created problems for inmates, attorneys, judges, and local communities. Whether you support the policy or not, those concerns deserve a serious response. What surprised me was that when Cruz asked whether the policy had been a positive or negative for the Bureau of Prisons, there wasn't really a clear answer. That seems like a basic question. If a major policy change affects inmate housing, transportation, court access, and local jobs, I think it's reasonable to expect officials to have an opinion on whether the results have been good or bad. The second part of the hearing focused on transgender inmate housing policies, and that's where things got even more heated. Again, what stood out wasn't just the policy debate itself. It was the lack of specific answers. Cruz asked how many biological males are currently housed in female prisons. No clear number. He asked how many transgender inmates are convicted sex offenders. No answer. He asked whether female inmates had been assaulted by biological males placed in women's facilities. Again, no answer. Now, people are going to have different opinions on these policies, and that's fine. But regardless of where you stand, I think everyone can agree that decisions like these should be backed by facts and data. When officials say safety is their top priority, it's fair for lawmakers to ask for evidence that the policies are actually keeping people safe. One of Cruz's strongest points was that if these issues are important enough to shape federal policy, they should be important enough to track and measure. That's not an unreasonable expectation. At the end of the day, I think this hearing was less about politics and more about accountability. Cruz was asking questions that many Americans would probably want answered, and too many of those answers seemed unavailable. Whether you agree with Ted Cruz or not, oversight is part of Congress's job. Government officials should be prepared to explain the impact of their policies and provide the facts when asked. For me, that's the biggest takeaway from this hearing. But let me know what you think in the comments. Did Ted Cruz make valid points, or do you think the Bureau of Prisons handled the questioning well? I'm Wilson, this is America Wake, and I'll see you in the next video.